Hey everyone, and welcome to my review of the Austrian Grand Prix. An incident-packed Grand Prix, I think from start to finish, and a top three of Max Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas, I think there, Valtteri Bottas, and Lando Norris as your top three. Another win for Max Verstappen, his fourth win at the Red Bull Ring, and Red Bull's fifth consecutive win in 2021. So things are looking up for Red Bull, and once again another weekend where Max Verstappen puts the car on pole, only just from Lando Norris, but once Max was out in front there was no stopping him. So just like the Styrian Grand Prix, so Max really is on fire. And can anyone stop him? At this point, you'd have to say no. Max, you have to say, is in the form of his life. But look, we know that there's a long ways to go this season, and we're going to Silverstone next. Obviously, spring qualifying, sprint format will be coming into or we introduced, I should say, to the British Grand Prix and two other Grand Prix this year. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out at the British Grand Prix. But really looking forward to seeing that. But coming back onto Max, and as I say, he really is in the form of his life, and you can only praise him for the job that him and Red Bull are doing, and they're doing what they have to do, and they're definitely piling on the pressure on Mercedes. And as a neutral, this is what we want to see. We've for so long, we've wanted to see battles between two different teams, and now we're getting that between Red Bull and Mercedes. And you throw in McLaren in that battle, which I'm going to come on to talk about soon. Um, but yeah, it's really shaping up to be or already is, I should say, turning out to be a fantastic season for Formula One. And look, I from a neutral's point of view, can't really complain. And yeah, it's another peerless, imperious performance from Max in Austria, and no doubt he will have been inspired by the Orange Army in Austria, and quite, it's quite no, he would feel inspired, seeing the amount of fans coming out to support him, and yeah, cracking job from Max Verstappen, and he with the way things are going at the moment, you have to say, it's Red Bulls to lose now in both the drivers and also the constructors championship as well. Whilst it was a good half, well, whilst one half of the Red Bull garage was celebrating, the other half with Sergio Perez, a difficult race. On Saturday, to be fair, although he didn't quite get it onto the front row, qualifying third and ahead of both Mercedes, Checo did a good job on Saturday, and yeah, like I say, he is right up there ahead of both Mercedes, which Red Bull would have wanted. And then for the race, really, once he had that incident with Lando Norris, really then it was difficult for Checo. Wasn't able to make the inroads to get back to the sharp end of the field that he would have liked. And obviously we saw him have a couple of incidents with Charles Leclerc, as I mentioned with Lando Norris. On that incident with Lando, look, we want to see drivers race hard but fair. But with the penalty that Lando got, I felt was harsh, if I'm being honest. Look, Checo obviously went round the outside, so because he did that, he was always going to. There's all that risk that he would end up in the gravel, and he did that. And that's what I like, to be fair, about the old school circuits, is the fact that you if you go into the gravel, you get punished for your mistakes, and we saw that with Checo. And I think the drivers like that. They like those old school circuits. But for the penalty for Lando, I felt it was a racing incident. It was quite early on in the race as well. So I think Lando can definitely feel hard done by. I can understand why the penalty was given, but no, I still feel it was harsh. And Lando, where else was he supposed to go? You're expecting him to stay really tight into the corner, but it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. And driving at what, over 100, miles per hour, going into that corner, it was always going to be tough for Lando to leave that gap. So I can understand why the penalty was given, but I still feel that was harsh. And then, as I say, with that incident that Checo had with Lando, from then on, really, he wasn't able to recover. And then we saw him have a couple more incidents with Charles Leclerc. The second penalty, I think, was fair. I think that was a fair penalty. But with the first one, again, I feel that was harsh. I think Charles, came in, and that's one of the things with Charles. There's no denying he's a fantastic driver. There's no denying that at all, and that's without question. But I think one of his weaknesses, and I think we saw it in Styria as well. Well, I think one of his weaknesses is spatial awareness, and I think with Charles going around the outside, there was always that risk that he would end up in the gravel, and that proved to be the case. That's so I felt that, and exactly the same with Lando and Checo, with the Checo and Charles first instant, where else was Checo supposed to go? So yeah, I did feel that first penalty was harsh, but having looked at the second instant between Sergio and Charles, I think that second penalty was warranted, and I think that was fair enough. But yeah, not the best of races for Checo, but when you look back at what he's been able to achieve so far at Red Bull, you have to say he's been a solid number two, and he's done a decent job alongside Max Verstappen. And it's clear that both drivers, from what we see, both drivers get on with each other, and Checo is playing that really good number two driver. And we saw in Azerbaijan when Max unfortunately had that incident. Checo was there to pick up the pieces, and it was him that won the race. So if Checo can continue to do that and just bounce back from the Austrian Grand Prix, then he will have another good season. And I think Checo can take a lot of positives from the way he's performed as a Red Bull driver so far, but know that he'll be expecting more from himself. And but yeah, I don't think Checo should be too hard on himself after what happened in Austria. No, every great driver has a bad race, and it happens. So yeah, just dust down and yeah, bounce back at Silverstone for Checo. And yeah, another great weekend for Red Bull, and particularly for Max Verstappen. Well, you can only run out of superlatives to describe the season that Lando Norris is having, can't you? Another uh, finish on podium, fantastic qualifying on Saturday from the Brit, and he was so close to putting the car on pole. But it just demonstrates how Lando and how far McLaren have come. And it's great to see McLaren right up there, right at the sharp end. And I really do think McLaren will be on that top step of the podium. I really do this year with the way things are going this season, particularly with how Lando is performing at this moment in time. I think that win will come sooner than you think. But yeah, Lando, great drive from him once again, and he's consistent. He's been consistently great this year, and ever since he's been in Formula One, each season he has improved, and I think this year, I think this year he's just stepped it up even more, and McLaren really have got a great car this year, and Lando is driving the wheels off that McLaren. So I'm really happy to see Lando do well, and I think we can expect a lot more strong results from the Brit for the rest of the season. And as for Daniel Ricciardo, a good drive from the Aussie. Obviously another difficult Saturday. So just needs to work on improving his qualifying. Although he did say that he felt the lap was good, but he just wasn't quite able to make it into Q3. But you know what? Starting from first, starting 13th, finishing seventh. That's a good recovery drive from Ricardo, and I hope that gives him confidence. And look, obviously seeing what Lando is doing, no doubt Ricardo, in a way, will feel a bit frustrated knowing that it's him that wants to be beating Lando. He wants to be right up there. But at the same time, when he looks at the fact that how Lando is performing, that looks at the strength of that McLaren car, actually, he can take a lot of positives from that. And look, there's still a long way to go this season, and I still think it's going to work at McLaren for Ricardo. I do, and I think that whilst he had a disappointing Styrian Grand Prix, albeit circumstances were out of his control on that occasion, on Sunday in Austria, Austrian Grand Prix, he drove a good race. So yeah, really good drive from Daniel Ricciardo, and I hope that gives him confidence for the rest of the season. So at Mercedes, it was Valtteri Bottas who finished on the podium in second, and you know what, really good race from Valtteri. I felt like he needed it, but that's two podium finishes on the trot now for the Finn, so that will give him confidence going into the rest of the season. And yeah, really good drive from Valtteri. Look, obviously he'll be frustrated the fact that he wasn't quite able to challenge for the race win and wasn't close enough to do that and to give Max a harder time. But as I say, two podiums on the trot for Valtteri, and he needed that. With all the speculation about his seat, and no doubt that will continue. But you know what? If he continues to pick up podium finishes on a consistent basis from now until the end of the season, then I think Mercedes will have no other choice but to keep Valtteri in that seat and to give him a new contract. But look, obviously in qualifying, he would like to qualify that a little bit higher. But finishing second from fifth, that was a good drive from Valtteri. Yes, Lewis did have problems with his car, which meant that Valtteri was able to get by. But Valtteri finished second, and finishing second is not a bad result at all. So yeah, really good drive for Valtteri. Lewis, as I mentioned, difficult race for the seven-time world champion. But look, there is a long way to go this season, and Mercedes obviously announced 5 races without a win. But if there's one place that Lewis will be gunning to get back to winning ways, it will be at Silverstone, and no doubt the British crowd will be behind Lewis. Obviously, Lando as well, but I've got no doubt Lewis will be inspired by the British crowd, and he will want to put on a show for the crowd, for the bumper crowd at Silverstone. So Lewis will be fired up at the British Grand Prix, no doubt about that, and he will definitely he'll be fired up to want to win that Grand Prix and really get his season back on track. He's had some difficult races recently, including in Austria, but you can never underestimate Lewis, and he's been in. He's had seasons before where he's trailed in the championship, and yet but then he's bounced back and he's gone on to win championships. So it's a long way to go this season, and Mercedes, write them off at your peril. Yes, they've had difficult races recently, but it's them. If there's one team that, and I know I keep saying this, but if there's one team that can bounce back from setbacks, it is Mercedes. So don't write them off just yet. And no doubt Lewis will be, he'll be in fighting mood at Silverstone in a couple of weeks' time. So coming on to Ferrari, and a good weekend for Ferrari. So Carlos Sainz, as a result of Checo getting a 10-second penalty, so Checo wasn't quite able to get that 10-second gap between himself and Carlos Sainz. So Carlos was able to then finish fifth, and Charles Leclerc finished just behind Daniel Ricciardo. So yeah, not a bad weekend at all for Ferrari. Keeps them in that mix for third place in the constructors. And yeah, no, as I mentioned with Sergio adapting to life well at Red Bull, Carlos has adapted to life really well in red. and he's continues to do a fine job. Really good strategy on race day, able to make it work, and was able to make his way through the field to then finish fifth. I mean, his move on Charles Leclerc in the closing stages, had he been behind Charles for a couple more laps, then Checo would have finished. He would have finished fifth. But, yeah, really good drive from Carlos once again, and yeah, I mean Charles. Obviously, look, we know he had a couple of incidents with Checo, so no doubt he will have been a bit frustrated with how his race day went. But like I say, another good weekend for Ferrari, and they're definitely still in the hunt for third in the constructors. And then we come on to Alpha Tauri, Pierre Gasly finishing in ninth, so a good couple of points for Pierre. I think the fact that he qualified sixth, so there might have been some disappointment in the fact that he wasn't able to finish in and around that place of six. But even so, more points for Alpha Tauri in the constructors. Difficult race for Yuki Tsunoda. Obviously, did a great job on Saturday. But then I know on Sunday he crossed the entry line to the pits twice. So it's those little mistakes that he really needs to cut out. We know he's got the talent. We know he's got the speed. But I think just needs to calm down more than anything, I think. But as I say, we know Yuki's got all the talent, and we've seen it in flashes. We really have seen it. So, give him more time, a bit more time. If he can cut out those mistakes, those small mistakes, then Yuki will have a really good season this year, a really good debut season in Formula One. So yeah, not a bad weekend at all for Alpha Tauri. And then Alpine, so Fernando Alonso, so took the final point, and his points run continues. And yeah, so good drive from Fernando. Could have been better had he not been impeded in qualifying by Sebastian Vettel in Aston Martin. So no doubt Alonso would have liked to have got a little bit more from the car and more points. But finishing in the points again, that'll give Fernando confidence. And another difficult weekend for Esteban Ocon. Not the best of weekends, knocked out once again in Q1 on Saturday. And then yeah, very very difficult race. So yeah, difficult. Ocon just seems to be in a little bit of a strut in terms of form anyway, in a bit of a difficult place. But I've got every confidence that Esteban will bounce back. And yeah, I think he's just going for a difficult patch at the moment. Ever since he signed that new 3-year contract, obviously the results haven't been great. But no, he will bounce back. I'm confident of that. And again, like Yuki, Esteban's shown that he's a very talented driver, and we very much know what he is capable of. So yeah, not obviously the difficult patch that Esteban's going through right now. He will come out of it. Agonising for George Russell just to miss out on the points in 11th for Williams, but fantastic job to get the Williams into Q3 on Saturday, and as I say, just missed out on that final point for him and Williams on race day. But you know what? It shows that these last few races have shown that Williams are making improvements, and I think George needs to focus on that and the fact that whilst there is that frustration that he wasn't able to score points in France and then the 2 Grand Prix in Austria, actually there are real signs that Williams are making progress, and they carry on like this, they carry on making the improvements that they are, then sooner or later, they will score points. And I think George, what better place to break your points duck for Williams anyway at Silverstone at your home Grand Prix. So if Williams can perform as they have been and continues to build on that, take that into Silverstone, then George has got as good a chance as anyone, other than the big teams, then of scoring points. So yeah, I don't think George should be too disheartened. So he's just got to keep doing what he's doing, and the points will come. So that's the end of my review the Austrian Grand Prix, and next up will be the British Grand Prix, which I'm very much looking forward to. But we'll talk about that um, in a couple of weeks' time. So if you want to talk things Formula One, I'm on Twitter at Baggies20, and I'm also on Instagram, Manish Patel89. Have a great week, all of you, and I will catch up with you all soon. Take care, everyone.